Why does anyone still bother or persist with the church, or any church? Well, a couple of disclaimers to begin with. As you know by now, I'm an Anglican priest and have spent most of my adult life working for the church. I've got a lot of myself invested in the church. I have a lover's quarrel with the church I've served. Some days I wonder about my own sense of vocation, whether it is after a particularly uninspiring church service or some other large gathering of clergy where I think I'm not like them. And I haven't even mentioned the church's reputation for the kind of abuses that has led to the Royal Commission that's been going on through the last 12 months. Well, this unit is about the life of God in and through the church. Have you ever wondered about the paradox? If, like me, you have a lover's quarrel with the church or have even given up on the church, then you'll be glad that this unit is not concerned with being part of the church or being in the church. And for my part, I'm going to really try hard to avoid the who's in and who's out controversies that often plague churches and church leaders. You'll also notice that we won't speak much about going to church, even though there is a wonderful little text that I recommend you might want to read one day called Going to Church in the First Century by Robert Banks. Because in that we discover that the first Christians had a very different idea about church. Now, in studying what it means to be the church, we need to think about things that are more important than who's in and who's out, or who goes or who doesn't. What are the origins of the church? What are some of the tensions in being the church? What is the mission of the church? Well, the origins of the church can be traced back to the New Testament, to Jesus, and back to the people of God before Jesus, called Israel in the Old Testament. The church has deep roots, and we need to get some sense of those roots, that history, as we start to think about what it means to experience the life of God in the church. There are now many resources available for this, and I encourage you also to start thinking about other subjects you will do. There is a subject in second semester called Being the Church, where you'll get to explore these questions more deeply than you can here. But the church, from its beginnings, has always had deep tensions, but has also at the same time sought to be a missional church. Now, I often think of banning the word missional because of the way it gets bandied around in many circles, many writers. Despite my grave reservations about the term, missional does say something pretty essential about the life of God in the church. So I'm a priest and a theologian, which probably explains a lot of my lover's quarrel with the church. I've committed my life to serving the church, but I cannot check my brains at the door and simply endure some of the stupid things we do together when we gather as Christians. I'm sure you can add to my already impressively long list of stupid things I've heard and seen Christians say and do on a Sunday. But the problem is this. I've contributed a few entries on that list myself. The joke is that the perfect church would exist, only that you or I would not be allowed to join. Again, Bonhoeffer, one of my favourite theologians, you've got that idea by now, was more eloquent when he said, we are a community of sinners before we become a community of saints. And so as we study the church, we join together not so much as a community of saints, but a community of sinners trying to become that community of saints. That is what the church is all about. That is how we experience and why we need to experience the life of God through the church. I don't expect you to love the church, although some of you already do. I don't want you to defend the church. Some things done in God's name with the church's protection in my lifetime alone are simply indefensible. But I do ask you this. I do ask you that you honour the church enough to learn its origins, to feel its tensions, and maybe even to share its mission. The church, after all, is the bride of Christ. And for better or for worse, I've devoted my life to serving her.